Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name is Gordon. I've always been the kind of man who believes order keeps a family safe. That comes from my childhood. When I was 11, my father lost nearly everything we had to gambling debts. One night, men came to our apartment banging on the door until my mother scraped together what little cash she had to make them leave. We spent the next month in a church basement, sleeping on cots while she worked nights at a diner and days at a grocery store. She never complained, never blamed me, never badmouthed my father. She just kept moving. That image of her holding our world together burned into me. I made myself a promise back then. If I ever had my own family, I would never let chaos through the door. Money, stability, security. I would build those walls myself. Years later, I met Tina. She was working reception at a physical therapy clinic. I'd torn a muscle in my shoulder unloading freight at the warehouse, and she was the first person I saw when I limped in. She had a way of speaking that was both sharp and soft. She told me she wanted to do interior design someday, that she was just paying bills until she could finish courses. I told her about logistics, about working my way from loading docks to the office. We traded small dreams for big ones, and within 2 years, I asked her to marry me. We bought a modest townhouse just outside the city. Nothing flashy, but clean, solid, ours. I kept climbing at the firm, moving into management. Tina supported me, proud every time I came home with another promotion. We built a rhythm, me working long hours, her keeping our home warm and steady. In those years, I believed I'd done it. I had created the opposite of what I grew up with: stability, safety, a family rooted in trust. Our son, Evan, was born 3 years into the marriage. Life settled into a rhythm. I left early each morning for the firm, but I made sure to be home in time for dinner most nights. Even if it was just takeout spread on the kitchen counter, we ate together. Afterward, I helped Tina with the dishes or gave Evan his bath. Work hours stretched long, but I kept telling myself it was worth it. Every extra shift meant another layer of security for them. Tina picked up small projects here and there. A neighbor asked her to choose colors for a remodel. A friend she knew from the clinic wanted help decorating a nursery. She called it practice, for when she could officially call herself a designer. Some afternoons, she said she was at the community arts center, volunteering with layout for events. Around that time, a car was stolen from a driveway down the block. A week later, another neighbor's garage was broken into. At the HOA meeting, everyone started talking about alarms and surveillance. Our insurance rep even sent a note. Proof of security could mean a discount. That weekend, I went online and ordered a system. 1 doorbell camera, plus 2 small wireless units, one in the kitchen, another angled down the hallway that led to the living room. My plan was simple: just enough coverage to keep us protected if anything ever happened. I installed them while Tina took Evan to her sister's house. By the time they came back, the doorbell cam was obvious, and I mentioned it right away. But the other 2 were so discreet, tucked near vents and shelves, that I didn't think about them again. My head was already on Monday's deadlines. I told myself I'd explain later, and then I forgot. At the time, it felt like nothing more than another chore checked off the list. I didn't realize those cameras would one day change everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Evan's preschool teacher mentioned it casually one afternoon when I picked him up. Evan's usually the last one waiting these days. He doesn't seem bothered, but I thought I'd tell you. I nodded, smiled, and told her I appreciated her letting me know. In the car, Evan said, "Mommy's always late on Thursdays. Miss Jenna gives me extra crackers." He wasn't upset. He just said it like a fact. That detail stuck with me. At dinner, I asked Tina, "Everything okay on Thursdays?" The teacher said, "You've been running behind." She barely looked up from her plate. "Yeah, design consults. People want me to see their places in the afternoon. Traffic's awful coming back." She smiled and asked me how my day was. Conversation shifted, but from then on, I started noticing patterns. She had begun putting her phone on silent in the evenings. If it buzzed, she'd flip it face down and say, "It's just the girls from the arts center." On Saturdays, she seemed tired, not from work, but from something else I couldn't name. Months later, a notification came from the security hub. "Storage is almost full. Review or it will auto-delete." I sat down with my laptop, curious more than anything. Most of it was what you'd expect: Tina cooking, Evan dragging toys across the floor. Ordinary life. But then I saw it. A white Tesla parked in the driveway, not once, but several Thursdays in a row, always between 1 and 4 in the afternoon. The doorbell mic picked up Tina greeting a man's voice. "You made it. Come on in." I leaned back in the chair and rewound the clip. Same car, same man, different Thursdays. My first thought was maybe a client, but I'd never heard her mention a Tesla owner. That night I asked, "How's the art center going?" She hesitated just long enough for me to notice. "Good. Busy. They need me a lot lately." Her answer sounded rehearsed. I didn't press, not yet. Instead, I bookmarked the clips and closed the laptop, my mind already shifting from suspicion to strategy. Once doubt settles in, it doesn't leave. I started small. I went through our joint account online and noticed cash withdrawals, always around the same Thursdays I saw the Tesla. Not huge amounts, but steady. I also found a receipt from a cafe across town, nowhere near the art center she claimed to be helping. The next week, I told Tina I might have to travel for a supplier meeting on Thursday. Could run late. She barely reacted, just said, "Okay, I'll handle things here." That gave me cover. Instead of leaving town, I stayed local. Before Thursday, I bought a nanny cam shaped like a digital clock and set it in the living room near the bookshelf. I didn't bother with the bedroom. If something was happening, it would start in the open. Thursday came. I dropped Evan at school, drove out of the neighborhood, then circled back and parked a few blocks away. Around 1 o'clock, the Tesla rolled into my driveway. A man named Andrew, tall, mid-30s, dressed too neatly for a casual visit, stepped out like he'd been there 100 times. Doorbell footage showed Tina opening the door before he even knocked. "You're early," she said, smiling. He laughed and leaned in like it was routine. I switched to the hidden cam feed on my phone. They moved through the hallway, then into the living room. There was no hesitation. They sat close, her hand on his arm, then his around her. Intimacy that wasn't new. I watched long enough to confirm what I already knew. Then I noticed something worse. Evan's bedroom door was shut. A quick glance at the hallway cam showed his tablet propped in front of him, volume low. He wasn't playing outside. He wasn't even in the living room. He was locked away so Tina could be alone with Andrew. I recorded timestamps, downloaded every clip, and saved them to an encrypted drive. I didn't confront her that night. At dinner, she asked, "How was your meeting?" "Productive," I said, and I kept my face calm, already planning my next step. The following Monday, I sat across from Amelia Reyes, a family attorney recommended by a colleague. I placed a flash drive on her desk. She slipped it into her laptop, clicked through clips, and kept her face neutral. After 10 minutes, she shut the lid. "You've got proof of repeated infidelity and neglect. Your son being shut in his room. This is serious." I nodded once. "I want to do this carefully. No blow-ups, no shouting matches. My son comes first." Amelia leaned back. "Then you need to prepare. Document every incident. Line up childcare so there's no gap if custody shifts. And move assets into a separate account. Legally, of course. Don't warn her." That night, I opened a new bank account in my name only. I didn't touch much, just enough to cover legal fees and emergency expenses. I also spoke with Luis, a trusted friend who had watched Evan a few times. "Can you be on standby for pickups?" I asked him. "Of course." "Whatever you need," Luis said without hesitation. At work, I met with HR to request a modified schedule. I framed it as a family adjustment, no details given. They approved fixed hours so I could handle more of Evan's day-to-day myself. Meanwhile, I kept the household routine unchanged. Tina continued her Thursday consults, smiling at me over dinner like nothing was wrong. She didn't notice the new rhythm in me. Earlier evenings, quiet notes I kept in a folder, the way I double-checked her stories against the footage. Each Thursday, the Tesla came back. More evidence piled up, and I stayed calm, polite, and deliberate. When you've seen the truth with your own eyes, pretending becomes easier. I wasn't playing the fool. I was setting the board. The papers were served on a Tuesday morning while Evan was at preschool. I was already at my desk at work when my phone lit up. "What the hell is this, Gordon?" Tina's voice was sharp, almost breaking. "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "You blindsided me. After everything I've done for this family." I kept my tone steady. "You've been seeing Andrew Clark in my house, Tina. Thursdays. Between 1 and 4. I have the footage." There was silence, then a shaky laugh. "He's a client. I was helping him with a studio project. Clients don't put their hands on you in my living room. Try again. Her voice dropped. It, it got complicated. I didn't plan for it. You planned enough to take money from our account. Cafe receipts, cash withdrawals, transfers to his business fund. That's not fair, she snapped. You're never here. Always working, always gone. What did you expect me to do? Sit at home and rot? I let the words hang for a moment before answering. I expected you not to lie, not to neglect Evan, not to turn our house into a stage for someone else. She softened suddenly. We can fix this, Gordon. We can get counseling, start over. Don't throw everything away because of a mistake. I exhaled slowly. This isn't about us anymore. It's about Evan. He needs one parent who puts him first, not one who hides him behind a closed door. Her breathing grew uneven on the line. So, that's it? You're just cutting me out? No, the court will decide what role you'll have. But the days of me pretending not to see what's right in front of me, those are over. I ended the call before she could answer. In mediation, Tina tried to sit tall, arms crossed, voice steady, but the evidence stripped away any ground she thought she had. Amelia handled it with precision. On March 12th, she said, sliding a time-stamped still across the table. Mrs. Carter locked Evan in his room while engaging in inappropriate contact with Andrew Clark. Tina's attorney cleared his throat. We don't deny contact, but… Amelia cut him off. This was not a one-time lapse. It's a pattern. Multiple Thursdays, consistent neglect of a child, transfers from joint funds to Mr. Clark's business account. She tapped another document. Shall I continue? The judge didn't need more. By the second hearing, it was clear where this was going. Tina's excuses, loneliness, my long hours, needing creative space, all collapsed under the weight of video and receipts. The ruling came down firmly. I was granted primary custody of Evan. Tina's visitation would be supervised until she completed parenting classes and counseling. Financially, the postnup I insisted on years earlier shielded my income. She left with her portion of shared assets, nothing more. Afterward, Amelia shook my hand. You stayed calm. That mattered. Judges notice when a parent is steady. Back home, I started restructuring life. I reduced my hours, shifting from 60 a week down to 45. Luis helped with pickups until I settled into the new routine. Evenings became predictable. Dinner at 6, bath at 7, stories at 8. The house was quieter but not empty. Evan adjusted faster than I expected. One night, as I tucked him in, he said, "You're here more now." Simple words, but they hit me harder than anything Tina had thrown in court. Months passed. The house no longer felt like a place I came home to after work. It felt lived in, steady, ours. Evan adjusted better than I imagined. He woke up lighter, laughed more, and stopped asking why his mom was late picking him up. His preschool teacher even pulled me aside one day. He's more relaxed now, she said. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Tina's supervised visits began awkwardly, strained. Evan clung to me the first few times, uncertain. Over time, the tension eased, but boundaries stayed firm. She finished her classes, and eventually the court allowed unsupervised visits, though limited. I never spoke badly about her to Evan, but I also never bent the truth. He deserved honesty. After the ruling, Andrew disappeared. He had never wanted the weight of her problems, only the thrill. The moment things turned serious, he left her to face the fallout alone. The hidden cameras, the ones I had forgotten to mention, were still running in those early weeks after the divorce. One evening, I stood in the kitchen, scrolling through the feeds. The house looked calm, just Evan building a block tower, me rinsing dishes. Nothing secret, nothing hidden. For the first time, I realized I didn't need them anymore. I unmounted the hallway unit, then the one in the kitchen. Only the doorbell stayed. Locks for doors, nothing more. One Saturday night, Evan and I sat at the table finishing spaghetti. He asked, "Why do we have cameras?" "To keep us safe," I said. Then I added, "Locks keep doors safe. Honesty keeps people safe." He thought about it, nodded, and went back to twirling noodles. Later, as I tucked him in, I thought back to the promise I made as a boy, never to let chaos run through my home. I had kept it, though not the way I expected. Stability hadn't come from holding a marriage together. It had come from letting go of the lies and choosing integrity for my son. The cameras I forgot to tell Tina about had uncovered betrayal. Safety isn't built from watching screens. It's built from living truthfully, even when the truth burns everything down. And in that quiet house, with Evan asleep down the hall, I knew we were finally safe. Thank you for watching.